Welcome to Green Time. I'm host Don Fitz. This episode we're going to be talking about the National MLK Streets Initiative. And with me I have a couple of guests who can tell us exactly what that initiative is. I have Melvin White.
How you doing?
And I have Andre Blunt.
Hi.
Both of whom are were the President and Vice President of the Beloved Streets of America.
Yes,
Now, Andre, what is the Beloved Streets of America mission and values? What's it all about?
We're bound by United Vision. Beloved Streets of America fosters collaboration among individuals, groups, and organizations, and generates resources to revitalize and conserve streets bearing the name of the Honorable Dr. Martin Luther King. And the vision is that every street that's in America is beautiful, vibrant, and prosperous.
And do you think that's the case now with Martin Luther King Boulevard in St. Louis?
Well, that's what we're working on.
Okay. So it's really, there is a big vision because there's
Yes.
a lot of work that needs to be done. Melvin White, you're the one who originated this vision and
Yes,
this
sir.
concept. Now tell me, how did you get that idea? What made you think about this?
It all started back in about 2005 and traveling down Delmore Boulevard and remembering what Delmore Boulevard used to once look like. It was kind of a crime-infested corridor. And a mile away, well, at that time, Delmore started to be redeveloping. And
right, I remember how Delmore Boulevard used to be sort of run down.
Yeah,
and
but then at the time that I started, the vision came, it was starting to turn around. And a mile away, which is Dr. Martin Luther King, and it's so close, I looked at the street sign and like, wow, this is Dr. Martin Luther King, but look what's going on. And you're seeing abandoned buildings and prostitution right there in front of me. So it's like, wow, this is not fitting for a man who gave his life to uplifting communities across the country. So at that particular time, I was wondering, was this going on all over America? And then we started to travel various MLK streets over the next 4 or 5 years.
Was MLK Street in St. Louis different from what happens in other
I noticed the same kind of conditions, whether it was Miami, Florida, Houston, Texas. It was the same type of things going on, abandoned buildings, crime-ridden, and it's just not fitting for a man of Martin Luther King's stature to be represented in such a negative light.
You know, I can really relate to that because I live about half a block off of Delmar, and I've lived there for almost 30 years in University City. I can see the city and the county pouring money into University City to revitalize it. There's a tremendous amount of support, even for some projects like the trolley, which a lot of residents don't really think need to have millions and millions of dollars. But then it's very clear that Martin Luther King really needs to have that, have that money pour into it so it can accomplish things.
I agree.
Now tell me, has there been any support from individuals and groups for the project?
Yes, we've had several groups here locally in St. Louis, from Better Family Life, Youth Build, and the Dred Scott Foundation, and also national coverage as well from Harvard University, Washington University here locally, and several other organizations across the country.
What sort of help are they giving? The organizations that come on board?
They're giving support as far as like cleanups. They bring some of their organizational members. They help board up buildings. And they just come and they help with some of our fundraisers that we've had in the past, and pretty much that type of support.
So there's a lot of different support.
There's also some donations that's coming in from ordinary people. A guy from Denver, Colorado reached out and said, hey, I love what you guys are doing. He wrote a check to us. So we know that this is a national initiative, and we're trying to galvanize the country behind this to help bring back Dr. King's legacy. So,
well, that's really good. I talk to a lot of people who support what you're doing, but I talk to a lot more people who don't know what Beloved Streets of America is all about.
Yeah.
And so I spread the word as much as I can.
Yes,
I think
it's
really, really important, and it's shocking that money is being spent on so many projects. And very little money on a project, which obviously is very much.
That's why we need some of the local people, the Nellies, the Cedric the Entertainers, to step up to the plate. Some of the national people, Jay-Z's and the Beyoncés. Where are you at? We need you right now. Let's help fix our neighborhoods.
I'm glad you mentioned some names, because those people really should be coming out and supporting this effort. If you support the community, then you should be supporting
That's right.
an effort like this, which is integral to the community. Okay, what is the national MLK initiative? I mean, what we've talked about so far is locally what's happening in St. Louis area, but what's happening nationally?
Okay, the National MLK Street Initiative is a 5-year initiative that we're kick off pretty soon here. But the 5-year initiative is to go to various MLK streets and with economic development and rebuild these streets that bears his name. So basically, there's 900 streets across the country. So
900 streets
that bears his name, and we're going to start here in St. Louis, where I'm born and raised from, and we want to start right here as the model city, and then go to various MLK streets, redeveloping, whether we're creating a legacy park or a monument, anything to beautify these streets. So
it would cost a lot to change.
Well, we got a 5-year, $1 billion initiative, so that's what we're
$1 billion. Okay.
Yeah. And that's not even enough. So
yeah, I'd say for 900 streets, especially when you consider the length of Martin Luther King in St. Louis.
Some are shorter, some are longer.
Some right.
Yes.
In a small town, it might be a very short street, but certainly in St. Louis, MLK is very long.
6.5 miles.
6.5 miles. So
Yes,
there really needs to be some effort into that. And I can't repeat enough how important this is. To do this not just in St. Louis, but to do a good job in St. Louis, so that this is an effort that could spread nationally to multiple other cities.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to take a break and look at a movie, which is the MLK Legacy Walk. Most of this footage is from 2015, is that right?
Yes, sir.
2015, when there was a march. And I believe that there have been other marches.
Yeah.
When was the first one?
The first one, this is actually our 5th this year, so it actually started 2009, 2010.
2009 or 10 was when the first
one. And,
MLK
it's
Walk
coming
was.
up on the fifth.
And so we have some footage of what the buildings look like in 2015, and hopefully in 2020 people won't remember that.
That's right. That's right.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
as the years go by, this will be a historical record of what things were like. But let's take a look at the movie, the MLK Legacy Walk.
This is what democracy looks like.
It ain't about us, it's all about God.
Yeah.
And we just come together.
Take our streets back like that.
And God will have.
I never thought in my life, that I would ever see a president the same color, same skin as people in my resident. But that seems all irrelevant. Drugs we be peddling, music straight corrupt in the hood. It's like heroin. And now I stand one voice, one nation, one main attraction, all against the system. Why you worry about your income coming in? Hey man, we need to take a stand as some grown men. Teach our kids right from wrong, go and educate them. Instead of sitting them down trying to let the TV raise them. I'm here to make a statement, you can go relay this. I'm trying to touch your soul, you ain't even gotta play this. But on the real, you gon' play this. They saying I'm the one, so welcome to the Matrix. A new leader to lead for all the patriots. Blowing past 50 states, this one for the nation.
Ain't nothing you gon' say that's gonna change. It's an I ain't turning back and I ain't clicking.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melvin White, President and CEO of Beloved Streets of America. We're here today in the offices of Beloved Streets of America, which is located at 5901 Dr. Martin Luther King Drive here in St. Louis, Missouri. Beloved Streets of America is a St. Louis-based 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to collaborate with individuals, groups, and organizations to revitalize and conserve the streets that bears the honorable name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In our 8-year study, we found out the majority of these streets are in impoverished sections of the country.
Every year we have our MLK Legacy Walk. This year will be our 4th annual, and it takes place right here in St. Louis, up and down our Martin Luther King Street. The whole purpose of this walk is to bring attention to the economic disparities that's been placed on these MLK streets across the country and as well here in St. Louis. We also want to bring about that, hey, we're trying to bring back Dr. King's legacy in a positive light, in a positive manner. Because right now, it's been so negatively depicted all around the country with streets that are in despair that has his name placed on them.
I'm out here because I love my city, and although we've been traumatized by a lot of things throughout St. Louis, I think starting with Martin Luther King Boulevard is important. I mean, Martin Luther King Boulevard is a street that's known nationwide, so it's good to be able to do this in St. Louis. I've lived here all my life, and I support my city.
I'm here because of one thing. It's to beautify Dr. Martin Luther King's name. It should be nothing but beautiful buildings, landscape, nothing but a good area for people to live. And we should do this all over the country, and I'm with it all the way to the end. I just want you to know, we're gonna get this done. Thank you.
Our first projects that we have here going in St. Louis is the Legacy Park, which was designed by a local architect by the name of Derek Lauer. Within the Legacy Park, we feel like a lot of our kids that are growing up today has lost touch of the culture and history aspect of St. Louis and some of the great historians across the country. So we will honor these historians within the Legacy Park. It'll also be a gathering place for students, field trips, community gatherings, and concerts, and so on and so forth. We've recently partnered with Harvard University on, they will be bringing their architect students down here in St. Louis to actually design St. Louis and create a master plan for this whole strip of this 7-mile stretch here in St. Louis, Missouri. We also want to take this to Washington, D.C. They're interested in our national initiative, and the Harvard students will be leaving St. Louis and going to Washington, D.C. as well, as part of our national MLK Street.
Yeah, I was raised up in this neighborhood, man. I've been around here since I was a little kid in 1953 when no black people out on this side of Union Avenue. I'm glad Martin Luther King is getting cleaned up. And back in the day, I should have went in Mars with him, but now I got an opportunity now to make up for it.
So my name's Chico Weber. I'm part of Square Fruit Labs. We've actually partnered up with Melvin White and Beloved Streets so we can help actually restore and build out some high-tech industries here. And so part of our commitment and our involvement with him is to introduce stuff like robotics, hydroponics that we've been working. We helped him secure a grant through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. Now we're kind of expanding out to like DC, so that's the next big thing with Melvin.
Take a unified effort to rid the streets of what is going on here, presently going on, prostitution, crime rate. This is not fitting for a man. This street is named after a man such as Martin Luther King. This is not fitting for a man to be in this, his image to be in this such of aura, this light. So there's over 890 streets that are named after Martin Luther King, and a lot of them are in horrible conditions such as this. So our mission is bound by a united vision. Our mission is to get people to come together to come up with a solution to resolve some of these issues that's going on these streets.
But someday, we hope that everybody will be marching in solidarity across the country on every Martin Luther King street, same time, same date, all over.
Welcome back to Green Time. I'm host Don Fitz. This episode we're talking about the National MLK Streets Initiative. And with me I have Melvin White, who was on for the previous episode, who is president of Beloved Streets of America. And this time we have Robert Powell, who is a board member of the Beloved Streets of America. Now, one of the things we did not get into last time very heavily is financial issues. So am I correct that Beloved Streets of America is a 501c3 organization?
A 501c3 nonprofit organization based right here in St. Louis.
And so if somebody wants to make a donation?
Yeah, if they want to donate any type of resources, they can log on to our website, belovedstreetsofamerica.org.
All one word, Beloved Streets of America.
Belovedstreetsofamerica.org, and all the information as far as donations and all information about our organization they can see right there on our website and how to contribute.
Okay, now that requires some money.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, what is the capital campaign?
Well, our capital campaign is the kickoff to the National MLK Street Initiative, and that's where we are raising $2.5 million to build the Legacy Park and the Legacy Corner.
Now, where would the Legacy Park be?
Legacy Park will be right at 5916 Dr. Martin Luther King, and the Legacy Corner is right across the street at 59.
What's the cross street there?
At Martin Luther King in Hamilton.
It's on Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it's right there. And is the Legacy Park being built?
That's where we're raising the money for right now. So the Legacy Park is just simply a park to honor local St. Louisans and national historians who paved the way for a lot of great things in America. So we want to honor these people in this park.
Now, has there been any support from either the local governments, City of St. Louis, or the County of St. Louis, or the State of Missouri?
No, not to this point, no, sir.
So that's one thing that we need to.
Yes, sir.
So everybody out there who knows your alderman,
right?
You need to get in touch with that
sir.
alderman and say, hey, this is a project that the City of St. Louis really needs
to back up.
To back up. Perhaps as important as a sports stadium.
That's right.
And a little bit of that sports stadium money could really go a long way on Martin Luther King. Okay, now Robert Powell, what does this have to do with arts? Do you have any connection with the arts in St. Louis?
Yes, I do, Don. I'm the founder and executive director of Portfolio Gallery and Educational Center, also a not-for-profit 501c3 arts organization. But we recently sold our building in Grand Center, and I'm trying to position the small arts groups like Portfolio to merge into one entity. We're all seeking the same thing, various disciplines, music, dance, theater, but all of us lack funds and support. And I'd like to see us all merge into one institution and then seek to become a member of the Metropolitan Zoo Museum District. There's legislation, House Bill 186, that provides for the establishment of an additional sub-district, which would benefit the Africans here in America and how the culture and the connections that we could give to the community.
So am I correct that if some of these mergers were to take place, it might be easier to get funding for the beloved streets of America because it would be on a lot of people's radar that it might not be on right now?
Well, the money wouldn't go to, with us merging, wouldn't go there. What we were seeking to do is merge and then locate this entity, this African American sub-district of the Metropolitan Zoo Museum District within the beloved streets of America here in St. Louis, on the Great Divide.
Okay, great. Now, what sort of connection do you see between art
and
Legacy Park, say? And all the rest of the buildings.
Art is the lifeline of any community, any civilization. I mean, you know, they have wars and they say, no, don't bomb this because that's culturally significant. So art is what we're trying to do here in America.
Well, what would you see in Legacy Park? What sort of artistic?
Oh, sculptures of Dr. King, you know. Sculptures of any heroes who have paved the way. You know, Walk of Fame, art.
The Walk of Fame, like is in on Delmar in University City. The Walk of Fame would be a really great idea. For to go down Martin Luther King, and as each area is rehabilitated, try to put some of those so that everybody can appreciate the contributions of African Americans to St. Louis history and Missouri history and United States history. And of course the statues, you know, Martin Luther King is an obvious statue, but there could be a
Thurgood Marshall.
Thurgood, lots.
It's lots of, you know, who's your favorite? And, it could be there.
And so
Madam C.J. Walker, you know,
the list goes on.
And so we would want those statues in Legacy Park, but also along
Dr. King.
Dr. Martin Luther King Avenue, and so people could come and see some of the.
We'd like to see it to be a destination place. People come to St. Louis. You know, I often ask, why do African Americans come to St. Louis?
And this could be a wonderful.
This could be a wonderful thing that would attract African Americans in particular to come to St. Louis. We've had problems here, and so we hope that this would, you know, connect it.
For both Mr. Powell and Mr. White, are there any other groups that haven't been mentioned, or that you stand out in your mind that you would really like to be involved in this initiative?
I would like the the Urban League, the NAACP, some of these national organizations to get involved, you know, because like I said, Martin Luther King stood for everything. I mean, all that, you know. So some of those national organizations to get involved would be great.
Yeah, you know? We like the Green Party, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party.
Yep.
It's a, you know, it's a chance to do something.
You would like them all involved.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's worthy of a good fight, good cause. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you about some of those who are already involved. What is superinterns.com?
Superinterns.com. It's run by a lady named Julie Braun, and she actually saw us on a television show, and she reached out and said, "Hey, I love what you're doing."
Was this the first one that we did?
Actually, this was off on a CNN.
Oh, it was a CNN?
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay.
And she noticed the efforts that we were doing here in St. Louis, and she said, "Hey, I want to donate to help your cause. I want to donate some interns." She said her organization provides you the resources that you need, whether it's web designers, graphic designers, human resources. We have approximately about 30 people from superinterns.com from all over the country that are working with us right now.
How many interns did you say?
30.
30 is
yes.
amazing. Okay,
yes.
So people
we built the 30.
Am I correct that they can do something very simple like pick up trash, or they?
Well, they're providing more so technical support.
They built the website.
Yeah, the website.
Okay, so they're good at the technical things.
The technical
website or Facebook.
Yeah, because they're not actually located in St. Louis. These people are.
Right.
We communicate through Skype, so we actually look at them, we interview people, we bring them on board, and it's been great to have them on as a partner.
So if anybody watching this show knows somebody in Cleveland or Los Angeles or Atlanta who might be interested in the project, they don't have to move to St. If they have computer skills, they do not need to move to St. Louis to work on the project. They can do that.
They can do that
from across the country.
And we're in the process of opening up chapters in various cities across the country. People who are wants to get involved with Beloved Streets and kind of galvanize people in that city behind it. So
we're going to take a break and see a couple of announcements, and we will be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Green Time. I'm host Don Fitz. We are talking about the National MLK Streets Initiative, and with me I have Robert Powell and I have Melvin White, who are both on the board. Melvin White's the president, and Robert Powell's a board member of Beloved Streets of America. Now, we've talked about different aspects, but of course a lot of the buildings on Martin Luther King need to be built up. Now, if you were building streets, if you were asking for new buildings along MLK, would that have any connection to environmental issues?
Yes, it will. We need to get our communities involved with more solar technology. That's a lot. That's not being touched upon on a lot of these urban areas. And we want to talk about urban agriculture. That is not a fresh.
These are things that could be done on Martin Luther King. You could see the solar panels. You could see the urban agriculture.
Saves energy.
And of course, one thing that people have said over and over again is that in black communities throughout the United States, there are a lot of food deserts where people cannot get fresh fruits and vegetables. Right. So this could be a focus is to have farmers markets.
Yes, it is.
On Martin Luther King.
Yeah, we had a grant through Wells Fargo for our urban agriculture initiative a few years back. So right now we're in the process of developing a system that provides fresh vegetables.
Would this provide jobs for people?
Yes, sir. This is job creation, most definitely. Jobs within the neighborhood.
And this is, of course, what distressed communities in the United States really need is job creation, and to rebuild Martin Luther King streets all across the United States would really provide jobs for some of the most distressed, communities. Now, what else could you see happening? You mentioned entertainment.
Yeah, like Mr. Powell talked about as far as our entertainment district. And you could probably talk a little bit more about that, because that's one of the things that he emphasized.
We want, as I said earlier, it to be a destination place. We have some wonderful jazz musicians here, various disciplines.
Mr. Powell, I got to cut you off mid-sentence because I'm getting the wrap-up sign. Okay. I want to thank both of you for participating in this discussion. Andrew Blunt also. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and be sure to tune in Green Time next week.